Hey you guys, it's Jess, or so it is true. I just got out of the shower, so you guys are seeing me basically in all my glory. So what we're going to talk about on this video is this. We're going to talk about NSaids. It's a serious topic for RNY patients. It's very serious, so we're going to talk about that. Also, doctors. We're going to talk about doctors and how important it is to know your doctor and know if they know about gastric bypass, and know that you can relate to them and talk to them about things that you have going on. The most important to me would be being your own advocate, and this goes for many of situations. So we'll talk about that. Lastly, we'll go over a small outline of basically what my book is, so that you guys have an idea about that, because I know a lot of you guys have been asking. Let's see. Here we go. Okay, so NSaids. To start with NSaids, we're going to talk about the fact of what NSaids are. NSaids are actually it's non-steroid, but it's an anti-inflammatory medication that's often given to patients for back problems, migraines, just about anything that you may have. The medication in particular that we're going to talk about is Tramadol. It is a pain medication that's not actually a NSaid. Now, let's see. Okay. Tramadol is hydrochloride. It's like Ultram or Tramadol. It's like an opioid or something. I don't know. A lot of people use it for even restless leg syndrome, fibromyalgia. I know people that take it for headaches. And, you know, I was taking it for a while after my fall, and it was working pretty well. I didn't have any problems really with it until here recently in the last 3 weeks or so. I started getting really bad pains every time I would get it in my gut. And progressively, it got worse and worse and worse and worse, and to the point where I thought I was going to die. I mean, it was so painful, and I never really understood what NSaids were or what the big deal was. And even though Tramadol is not an NSaid, it reacts in your body like one would. Like I said, so basically, what it did was it caused, as it was going down in my system, around my belly button, about this big around my belly button, it was a pain that was kind of shooting out. And then it started to go down a little bit further. So right above my pelvic bone and right below my belly, I was double over in pain, and it was really bad. It wasn't until I went to my doctor's office and where I explained to him, and he explained to me that Tramadol can actually react in your system like an NSaid would. So you need to make sure that when you're speaking with your doctor, you make sure that you put it even on your allergy list, like I do everywhere I go. NSaids, I'm allergic to NSaids. They ask me why. I tell them I had gastric bypass. They say, oh, well, we can do this, this, and this, and, you know, it won't cause any problems. Well, I don't even want you injecting it. I don't want it anywhere near me. Now that I know how much pain it can cause, do not go near NSaids. You want an ibuprofen? Take a cup of Tylenol. Don't take NSaids. So one thing that I have found also that it looks like 6 out of 7 cases involved the use of NSaids for gastric bypass patients who ended up in the emergency room and required emergency surgical intervention to repair the gastric perforation. So NSaids are serious. And they are potentially a life-threatening condition. Let's see. The high risk may decrease. Yeah, so, I mean, it's really serious. Tramadol, you know, was great in the beginning, but it ended up causing a lot of problems. So you guys make sure that you keep an eye out. Don't take anything that's an NSaid, and try to talk to your doctor about anything that may react in your system as an NSaid. NSaids are pretty serious. They can cause ulcers and gastric perforations. I mean, it's a serious thing, so keep an eye out. Don't go near them. So do your research. That's it, really. Do your research. Next topic we're going to go into, and we'll probably go into NSaids in the future again. I'm just going to get something real quick though. Here we go. One thing real quick I want to add in is ER visits. one thing that I talked in my Facebook diary about. First thing is, if you go to the ER for tummy pain, post-gastric bypass, or you feel just something's not right, don't be afraid to walk into the ER and let them know that you recently had surgery. You recently had gastric bypass and you're feeling a little dizzy. You may be feeling dehydrated. That dizziness is common to being dehydrated. If you're not able to get your fluids in, don't be scared to go into the ER. They'll put you in a back room. They'll hook an IV up. It's really not a bad process. They'll shoot some fluids through you. The next day you're going to be feeling much better. I probably went into the ER 6 or 7 times. I went in, there was nothing else put into my IV except for fluids. And the fluids, it seriously helped me get through. You guys saw me progressively get better. That was all based on them being able to give me the fluids that I needed. And it's called saline. It's water mixed with saline and vitamins. Sometimes they'll put vitamins in after they check your blood and make sure that you're okay. The next day you're going to feel a lot better. I highly recommend it if you're newly post-op and you can't get your fluids in. This is very serious. If you can't get your fluids in, you can lead to the point where I was, where I had massive problems. Okay, so don't put yourself in that position. Also, if you ate something that you can't get out, you can try to flush it through your system by drinking as much water as your stomach can handle. But if you can't get it out, don't be scared to go to the ER, because they may need to go in there and see that you have a stricture. A stricture after gastric bypass is where the closing on the end of your stomach, here's your pouch, here's your esophagus. Your esophagus goes into your pouch. This part was never changed during surgery after RNY. Underneath, after your small pouch, which mine's still the size of an egg, so that goes to tell you how well my surgeon did, here's the exit out of your pouch. This exit is where that stricture is going to cause, because that's where it's sewed in and your stomach's sewed up. It comes down, your old stomach's here, and it attaches like this. So they pull up your intestines and they reattach the other part of your stomach. The part that's on your old stomach that is now on your new stomach that they made, that's where the stricture forms, and it can close up your pouch. This can be seriously dangerous. So if you can't get in fluids, or you feel like you're taking a sip of water and it's extremely painful, and you are 3 to 4 weeks after surgery, because doctors will tell you that it takes like 5 weeks to heal after surgery. Actually, your body's healed as good as it's going to get after about 2 weeks. And this I know because of the research that I've done and what's happened with me. So if it's different for you, then maybe your surgeon told you something different. Anyway, the last thing is, let's see, on that topic and the ER topic, don't let them waltz in with a needle and just poke you. Ask questions. The wrong medications can cause you more pain than when you went in there in the first place. So make sure that you watch that. The next topic, like I said, that we're going to talk about is doctors. Biggest thing I want you guys to know is make sure that your doctor is somebody you can talk to. Make sure your doctor understands gastric bypass. If they don't know about gastric bypass, maybe you need to find another doctor that can relate to gastric bypass. Your life is going to change 110% after surgery. Gastric bypass, RNY, will change your life. It's not like you can just go in and say, I have a tummy ache, and they give you some medication because maybe you ate some wrong food. It could be something serious, like a stricture. It could be something serious, like an ulcer. There's a lot of different things that change with your body, and your body reacts differently. Your dizziness, maybe your sugar's low. When you stand up immediately, you might be severely dehydrated, or your sugar might be off. Your vitamins could be off. Feeling faint, not really wanting to move, things like that. Your iron could be off, or better yet, your ferritin could be off. As a lot of you guys know, my ferritin's less than a 1. That's not good. So I have to go in and I have to get iron injections. It takes about 8 hours. I sit in a room where there's other patients coming in and out for multiple reasons. Most of them are in there for cancer in the room that I'm in. But the people there are amazing. So beneficial for you. Know your information. Know your doctor. Make sure your doctor knows you. Most important, be your own advocate. When you know your NSaids, you know what you're not allowed to take. You know when you feel this way, might be what's wrong. Have a doctor that you can tell them these things and they don't get offended. It's very, very serious for you to be your own advocate, because doctors, especially ER doctors, they think they know. Well, we're a little bit different, so maybe they don't know. So just make sure that you know your information. Do all the research you can. If you have questions, feel free to ask. I'm always here. You guys know that. Let's see, we're at 10 minutes, so let's move on. Now, being your own advocate was one of the biggest things. So make sure that you are your own advocate, because seriously, I've got myself in a lot of trouble with doctors that had no clue. I mean, as you guys know, when I had my stricture, a lot of you guys know that the ER, actually, I went there about 4 or 5 times. No, 4 times. All 4 times they sent me home. They said I had all types of different ailments, but I wasn't able to really drink anything. I would choke it down and then throw it up. It would take a little bit longer for it to come back up, so they just sent me home. Well, on the 5th time, my mom told them that they weren't allowed to send me home. And the doctor had the gall to tell my mother that she didn't want her daughter home. What was wrong with her? So my mom let her have it, and they actually took me in. Come to find out, my stomach was the smallest that doctor, that gastrologist, who was very good at what he did, it was the smallest stomach that he had ever seen. And the stricture had closed up smaller than a pin top. Not top, but a pinhead, pinpoint. So it was pretty serious, and that's when a lot of my complications came about. So let's see, my back's really starting to hurt now, so I'm probably going to end this a little bit sooner than I normally do. A little quick outline on the book. The book is literally about everything. This book has everything in it. It has a lot of information as to when I was a kid. It has a lot of information about what it was like for me to make friends, what it was like to be so closed up and so embarrassed. I was so embarrassed I wasn't even able to, I wouldn't take my socks off in front of people. As weird as that sounds, I literally wouldn't take my socks off. It was a sad situation. I was just very closed up and very absent-minded. I was just not there ever because I had so many problems. The story goes on about everything that's happened to me, all the way up to why I got to the size that I was, how I came to the point of making the decision to lose the weight, and there's a big portion in there about how I've lost a lot of friends because of my decision to get healthy, what they didn't understand. Even people that had the surgery, also, they don't get me. And it's funny because a lot of people say that I've changed. A lot of people don't realize that, I changed considerably before I had surgery. I just didn't have tons of friends. I had a lot of close friends, but I didn't have tons of friends that like I do now, where I feel like I can talk to anybody, so, that's pretty much the gist of it. And it goes into, all of my complications post-gastric bypass. It goes into mistakes that were made by doctors that led me to the point that I was, right up to the point where I'm at now. So, there's just so much, and I want to get it into the book because I think that it will help other people either make the decision to have gastric bypass or make the decision not to. It kind of talks about what I would do if I could do something differently. Would I? It goes into that as well. Lastly, in the book, in the bottom of the book or the end of it, it goes into recipes. A lot of you guys see my pictures on Facebook. I try to post up the recipes and things like that because both my husband and I, most of you guys know, we both had gastric bypass. So it's what it's like to be cooking in a household for gastric bypass. I mean, it's just like my house is like a boarding house for gastric bypass patients. I've got a good friend that comes over all the time. She had gastric bypass the same day as me. So, Shauna, so she comes over all the time. I have a good friend that's from Myrtle Beach, who is really great, and he had gastric bypass many years before I did. So it was really cool to be able to go to him and talk to him. But, that's it. I've got friends that I've lost that have had gastric bypass. I've still lost them. I've got friends that didn't have gastric bypass that I was very shocked to find out that they weren't going to be around. And boy, did they turn their backs as soon as I decided to get healthy. So that's about it. I'm going to go ahead and get off here because I only have 30 seconds left. But if anything, I could tell you guys that have had gastric bypass, watch your enemies, because maybe they may be better friends than your friends are. And those friends that are watching this because their friends having gastric bypass, be a good friend. They need it. All right. So it's not as easy as it looks. Thanks, guys. I love you, and to message me if you need me. All right. Bye.